Hi, I'm Gigi Duban, and on this episode of Alabama Inc., yeah, we've all heard about Honda, Mercedes, and Hyundai making a big splash, but what about the little guys? We'll take a look at parts suppliers and the cutthroat competition to land one. And Pat Duggan sits down with Shannon Riley, mother of four who's built her own business cleaning up environmental messes. And OMG, correspondent Josh Sneed gets a little rush, a sorority rush, with a couple of ladies from Rush Biddies. All that's coming up on Alabama Inc. When global auto giants like Mercedes or Hyundai land in Alabama's pool, the impact is huge, and it sets off this ripple effect. We're talking about companies that make all the little parts that go into making a car. Well, those are the supplier deals that we don't hear about as much. But behind the scenes, there's fierce competition among cities and towns that want to land one.
We have over 500 companies associated with automotive manufacturing. They represent the largest manufacturing presence in the state of Alabama. And of course, we have three original equipment manufacturers, the OEMs, with Honda, Hyundai, and Mercedes-Benz located in the state.
OEM is just a fancy name for the big boys you hear about in the news, the huge global companies everyone knows. But they don't operate in a vacuum. A Mercedes or a Honda relies on lots of small factories to make the parts. These are called suppliers, and landing one is tough.
So in the world of trying to bring suppliers to the state, how competitive is it?
Oh, it's very competitive. The interesting thing is, if you looked at Alabama in the mid-90s when Mercedes-Benz was being recruited, we competed at that time against other southeastern states, but now we find ourselves often competing with other regions around the world. In the times past, we sometimes have been able to sit back and play catch, as I like to say, and catch projects that come our way. Well, those days are over. In these times, you have to be more strategic to be successful.
A lot of suppliers just do one very specific thing. Take Thermolex in Montgomery, for example. These guys make this one tiny part for your car's air conditioner. Barry Andrews is manager at Thermolex.
Well, what this is a condenser, and when you talk about the products that we make for this condenser, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's tubes inside here. Now this one's been painted black, and obviously the one I'm holding has got a white coating on it. When we make the product that we make and we send it to the tier ones, they take all the other components and assemble this condenser. This particular condenser goes in a Honda. As you can see, it's kind of small here. This is in the Toyota Tundra pickup truck.
And the 200-something people who work here, they live in the area, Montgomery, or?
They do. I think just about everybody lives in the general area. We do have some people come from Auburn. We're here in Montgomery, obviously. We have some people in Prattville, but in the surrounding towns, I'd say 85–90% of everybody lives in the Montgomery area.
I mean, just from where you sit, what do you think, what kind of an impact do you think you have on the local economy and the state economy overall?
Gosh, I've never, 220 or so people living, eating, dining, doing whatever here. I haven't calculated it, but I'm sure it's significant.
So while the major plants end up in bigger cities like Montgomery and Tuscaloosa, suppliers can look to the little towns to set up shop. When Hyundai announced it was coming to Montgomery in 2002, it was the smaller Alabama towns that rolled out the red carpet for suppliers. One of those towns was Greenville.
Greenville, Alabama, your exit to success.
Our community, it struggles from the economy standpoint. We know what a recession is all about because we've gone through a recession. But without the jobs that we had from Hyundai Motor Company, I would really hate to know what it would be like around here.
Greenville is home to 2 Hyundai Tier 1 suppliers, Huashin and Hisco. Those 2 plants brought more than 1,000 local jobs.
20 years ago, if you'd have said we were going to have Korean companies in Greenville, Alabama, and I'd been to Korea 3 times, I would have started laughing at you immediately. It's mind-blowing.
We had 28 Korean companies come look at Greenville. We got 3, okay? That's a great percentage.
When Hyundai announced plans to build in 2002, Greenville had one of the highest unemployment rates in the state, over 18%. Greenville Mayor Dexter McClendon got right to work recruiting suppliers. But it wasn't easy going up against bigger towns.
You got to have everybody know about your town when you have a small town. Everybody knows about Montgomery. How do you make sure they know about Greenville? Well, the first thing we did when Hyundai made the announcement, we put a billboard up, okay? And it said, "Welcome Hyundai, Greenville's open for business." And we put it between the Hyundai plant and downtown where they stay in the hotels. Well, the next thing that happened, I went to the groundbreaking and I worked the crowd, okay? I made sure everybody knew who Dexter McClendon was. And I take a lot of pride, if you ever meet me, you're probably not gonna forget me, okay? I handed Korean cards out.
You got your own cards made into a Korean version.
That's right. I was handing them out to everybody that would take one.
Did you learn any Korean?
I didn't learn any at all. I don't know English very well, so I sure wasn't gonna learn Korean very well. So I just started working the crowd.
You have to be charming and charismatic, but to land a supplier, McClendon says, you almost have to be willing to bend over backwards.
You have to jump through a lot of hoops. You have to be real patient, which is not something I do very well, to get these companies.
What kind of hoops do you have to jump through?
Well, those hoops are, they're going to come with the Huashin that's here now. They came 25 times before they made a decision.
What do they do in 25 visits?
They look at property, they ask questions, they change their mind and they start back over. Then they tell you they're going to another town and they want you to give them more incentives to get them to get their company. They play one town against the other. Their job is to get the best deal they can get. And my job is to get jobs without paying too much for those jobs. But as you know, when you ride by Mercedes from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham, you really can't pay too much because it all comes back. I mean, they spent $80 million when they came in, okay, just to build the building and to put the equipment in. You're talking about millions and millions of dollars into your economy.
The good news for Greenville is that both Hisco and Huashin plan to expand. That means more jobs and more money pumped into Greenville's economy.
Coming up next on Alabama Inc.
For me to be in control of every aspect of my life, I had to be the one who owned and ran the show.
Okay, true story. When we have people over to the Duggins house, the one thing they seem to ooh and ah about when they visit our kitchen is the tankless water heater. It's this little bitty box. It doesn't use a big tank to heat the water. It's supposed to be energy efficient. And so the Dugginses come off feeling as though they're really green. And then we met Shannon Riley. Her idea of green projects includes cleaning up the Fort Rucker Army Base in Alabama, as well as Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport. Here's how she got from here to there. When you go to cocktail parties, how do you tell people what you do?
Basically say that we are the dirty side of the environmental cleanup world. We're the guys out there with the boots on getting the job done, so that when we leave the site, no one knows there was ever an environmental issue that had occurred there. Hazardous waste, asbestos, lead, mold, we get rid of the stuff that is not supposed to be there anymore.
Well, you're a University of Alabama graduate, but I understand that, you know, shortly thereafter, I mean, all of this sort of began for you working for the folks that brought us the atomic bomb. I mean,
Correct.
Your days out at Los Alamos, what was that like?
Out there, it was wonderful. I loved working at Los Alamos, not only for the history of the area, and it was a beautiful place. You know, it was high desert, and the research was very fascinating. But I was researching the removal of the waste that was left behind after they had created the atomic bomb.
You talk to your average chemistry student, and you can see them, you know, doing research or maybe teaching.
Correct.
I mean, since we're here and since the cameras are rolling, I mean, go ahead and put in a pitch. I mean, somebody with a chemistry background, you know, how do they make an entrepreneurial idea work?
Well, I think I was raised in an entrepreneurial family. My dad was a small business owner, so I already had kind of that, you know, dinner talk that I had heard my whole life. And it was what I took the education that I had and the skills I had and made it work for my life. Because when I started One Stop Environmental, it was because I was a new mother. And I did not want to work for someone else, having to ask them for permission to take my child to the doctor, to go see the Christmas program. And I knew that in order for me to be in control of every aspect of my life, I had to be the one who owned and ran the show. So that's where I got it started. But my education was in chemistry, and I love the adrenaline rush of things, and an area of which I had gotten to use my chemistry degree outside was with emergency response.
If you talk to your average entrepreneur, such as yourself, I mean, the one thing that always seems to come true with a response is that it's okay to have a really good idea, but you also have to fill a specific niche. Otherwise, how do you make money at it? When you were getting into this and you set up shop here in Alabama, what was the need that you saw that said, I can do that and I can make a buck at it?
Well, when One Stop got started, and I must also say it was with the encouragement of my husband. He is the main entrepreneurial mind in our family. But there was no contractor that handled emergencies. Someone would have to come out of Atlanta or Chattanooga, but there was no one here in Birmingham. And you know, we do have a large industrial base, and so accidents do occur. We have an interstate system, and so problems do occur, and this allowed us to have a much faster response. Well, down this hall is just where we have displayed a bunch of pictures from our job sites, but this one is from the tornado cleanup where we worked with Alabama Power handling all the transformers that fell. This is us on I-65 on a good hot summer July day. The chemical that is involved in this tanker truck does not like to get hot. And so the reason this truck had stopped was because the brakes caught on fire, and it was on I-65 in the middle of the summer, just radiating heat everywhere. And so the thing about emergency response is you've got to get resourceful with what you have at your hands. So we turned to the firefighters that were there on site and had them spray us down with water the whole time we were transferring this chemical to make sure that it didn't get too hot. Coming up to a job site like this, you know, there's all the lights on with the firefighters, the policemen, and you're getting to come right up to the front lines of that and see exactly what is going on. And so there's some excitement when you get to get on the safety lane and pass, you know, the whole shut down interstate as you're heading up to the wreck. But when we start on a job like this, you don't go to sleep and you don't eat until you have got things safe. And you learn really quick that some really cold French fries from McDonald's are heavenly to eat because that's the only food you're going to see for quite some time.
A lot of what you do is like for government, for the military, that sort of thing. How much of an adjustment was that in terms of like, okay, this is what I do, but I've got to now, you know, work within that bureaucratic framework?
I was going to laugh and say I always said I majored in chemistry so that I didn't have to read and write very much. And that is the bad part about working for the federal government is I read and write a whole lot. Because in order to even go on a job site, we've had to present a work plan, a safety plan, you know, binders and binders of material before we're even able to walk onto the job site. And that was a really big change for us, because here, if there's an emergency, we go out the door immediately and go take care of it. For the federal government, if there's an emergency, before you go, please present us with 4 binders detailing everything you're going to do, and a week later, then you'll go to the job site. And so from a commercial mindset to a federal mindset, that is you know, completely opposite.
What did Hurricane Katrina teach you?
It taught me a lot. It taught me that, you know, work with people with compassion, because we were in there to get a job done, but we were also making a lot of noise. We had big trucks, and they had already been through a lot. And then working with our own employees who were excited to have that much work, but the human body can only do so much before you give out.
You also helped out with the cleanup from the Tuscaloosa tornadoes of 2011. Yes. Now, comparing that to Katrina, how was the experience here in Alabama different, and how was it the same, what you experienced in Louisiana?
It was, well, it was different in that I knew so much, knew more. You know, again, we had to staff up. You know, we had less than 24 hours to have 80 people out on the ground working. For Tuscaloosa, we had 13 crews, which meant 13 supervisors, 13 heavy equipment operators, 13 pieces of equipment, and we were staged all over the state of Alabama. So then you're coordinating with hotels, and you're getting people places. It was closer to our office, so we were able to manage it a little bit easier. When we were in Katrina, I would wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning and drive down there, go check out the job site, talk with our client, deal with the parish, and then drive back home.
Is there any job that you said we won't do that?
No, you know, we work really hard at saying the word yes and then running around here like chickens with our head cut off to make sure we do a good job once we've said yes. So we jump right on in there, and there's been a lot of fun with those jobs, and a lot of things learned in the process of doing different jobs that maybe we weren't really marketing for, but it got sprung on us.
Shannon, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Coming up next on Alabama Inc.
Describe Rush in one word.
Nerve-wracking.
We give them the tools to sort of demystify the process.
It's a week to find out what sorority you'll get into. Nothing to it, right? Well, Pat Grant and Marlia Foster would respectfully disagree.
Now, when you think of a sorority girl, you think of a squealy, giddy girl spending lots of dad's money. And you'd be right. But these girls are also using these sorority connections to gain an edge in the job market. For most women, this process can be pretty stressful. But for Pat Grant and Marlia Foster, they actually saw a business opportunity. They started a consulting company called Rush Biddies that takes girls through the do's and don'ts of Rush. So when it came time to start the business, did one of you need any coaxing or any talking to? Or did you both just look at each other and say, it's time to start a business?
Well,
Yeah.
it probably evolved over several late night phone conversations.
Right.
Well, tell me why is it important to find the right sorority for each girl?
Well, we do have a philosophy. There are good girls in every group. It's just that sometimes you've got to find that group that matches your personality.
Do you get girls though that come in and they have their mindset on one sorority?
Oh, of course.
And because all their friends are going, or the girls from, I know.
They're older friends.
Like, yeah.
We discourage that because we feel like that if you don't keep an open mind and looking at all the groups, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Right. But if you can embrace, if you want to go Greek, if you want to be a part of the Panhellenic group, you've got to keep an open mind. Girls think they have to start school, go through recruitment, find their spot on campus, and go from there. Right. And it can be very disappointing if you don't find a spot your first year there.
When families make initial contact with you guys, is it mostly the mothers or the daughters?
The moms.
90% mothers. We do get some daughters, but it's usually the mother that is interested and brings the daughter.
Do you think the mothers are more concerned?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
They get more nervous than the daughters do?
Well, we love that expression. A mom's only as happy as her most unhappy child, you know. So
And they want to keep them
they
happy,
want,
so.
You know, moms want their daughters happy.
This whole thing just sounds like girl heaven. Like just
Oh, it
girls talking about
is. It is
girls.
girly. Absolutely, it is girl heaven, and we do love it. But it's at the same time we feel like we're helping.
And we've tried to explain too that these are lifelong skills, and that these are things that so many of the young women have not addressed a resume before, an interview process before.
Describe Rush in one word.
Nerve-wracking.
Interesting. Awesome.
Overwhelming. Well, I have friends that go to other schools and are in sororities, and just telling them about the process of ours and how many people, like, they're flabbergasted because it's just not on the level that it is here.
I'm from out of state, and I just had no idea how huge it was. Like, I didn't know there would be thousands of girls all trying to be in the same sororities.
There are moms that get devastated if their girls don't go their sorority, and I'm just thinking, my mom's just sitting there going, good luck, hope you get in a good one, you know?
In one of the sorority houses, I was like shaking the girl's hand, my elbow came back, and it was like a cherry limeade, and I was wearing a white dress, spilt all over me, and the girl I was talking to that was rushing me, I was mortified.
Did you just immediately leave?
No, I didn't. I was just really apologetic, but if I could have, I would have.
I was nervous just about like going in and talking to people that I had never met before. I didn't know, like, I just didn't know. I had no idea that they would scream at us when the doors opened and like do door songs, and I just had no idea the whole process and how like huge it was.
So you guys have said before that, you know, good publicity for a university leads to bigger numbers for their recruitment. How about for you guys? You guys have been featured in the New York Times. Did that help you guys?
Absolutely. We had someone flying from Texas, so
That's
we
right.
were so
We
excited.
did.
And she heard about you guys through the New York Times?
New York Times. And then also we pop up, if you Google Rush Coach, we pop up.
We pop up, yeah.
So a lot of people have found us through that. But I think the New York Times was the big pickup.
That was a
And
big,
Melissa
that was a big plug for us.
That's our show for this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Check out the stories we're working on and tell us what you think. I'm Gigi Duban, and we'll see you next time on Alabama Ink.